Hey everybody, doing another class here. The series that I'm doing, Survey of the Bible. Appreciate you being with me and watching, and we are going to be doing Genesis today. And if you could do me a favor, watching this on YouTube, if you can like or follow, I'm not good with YouTube, my profile. And if you want to, if you can also hit the subscribe button, I think it's a bell. And also comment on this video. How about this? Comment which state you are watching this video in. That'd be cool. I'd appreciate it. That will help me out and that will encourage me, and hopefully it'll help more people to find this and maybe learn from it. So we're doing a survey of the Bible. This is officially the first one, Genesis. We had a prologue. The previous video is on the canon of the Bible. And that was helpful, just talking about why we have 66 books and not 50 and not 73 and things like that. So I encourage you to watch that video and glean from that. I hope you get some paper and pen ready, and let's go through Genesis. So I have a couple different sections that I'm gonna go through each book on, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. So the book, obviously Genesis, the section of the Bible, author, when it was written, key verses from the book, key words, phrases, key characters, key points, and then outline, summary, main events of the book. And that will change with the book, and just how I feel about the easiest to go about it in getting the information across. So Genesis is the book, and the section that it is in is referred to as the Pentateuch. It's also known as the Torah. Pentateuch. Penta means 5. Tuch, I think, means writings or scrolls, maybe writings. So we know it also as the books of Moses. And commonly in the Bible, it's referred to as the books of Moses, or the book of law, together as 5. 5 books together as one, and it's always referred to it that way. So going along into that, the author is Moses, except for the people who just want to be criticized and critical of everything with the Bible. It's very well accepted that Moses wrote Genesis as well as the remaining 5 books of first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. This is commonly accepted as such. It was written after the Exodus, and the material that I'm using for this generally picks about 1445 BC for the date of the Exodus. And we'll deal with that more in the next book. And it was written before Moses' death, which we believe to be around 1405 BC. when Genesis was written. Key verses. A couple key verses in the book of Genesis. One of the most important ones, in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. This is important because there's so much to this verse. It's doctrinal. It doesn't try to explain, doesn't try to justify, doesn't try to prove it to you. It just states it as fact. It states God. So it's not the gods or anything like that. So there's so much. It's so powerful, and it's so important. If you can get through believing Genesis 1:1, and especially the first chapters of Genesis, the rest of the Bible should be easy for you to accept and believe. So paramount, so foundational to what we believe in regards to the Bible and the purpose of the Bible and how God did things. So very important verse. Another one is chapter 2, verses 23 and 24. It's referred to as the institution of marriage. Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. If you know what that movie is from, comment that below too. Come on, Mike, it's the first book of the Bible. It shouldn't be hard to turn to. Genesis 2, you know this verse. Brand new Bible. Give me a second. Hold on. This is all brought to you by the brand new MacArthur Study Bible, 2nd edition. Okay. Genesis 2, 23, 24. The man said, she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So we refer to that as the first point, institution, example biblically of marriage. Next, key verses in the book of Genesis. 3:15 is referred to as the first gospel, messianic prophecy. And you know this one too. Genesis 3:15, which says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. So it's a picture of the coming Messiah, Jesus Christ, right there dealing with the serpent. Next, for the book of Genesis, is chapter 9, verses 8 through 17. And this is the Noahic covenant. Introduction of the rainbow. And the Noahic covenant deals with, obviously, Noah after the flood. And he says, God says, chapter 9, verse 8, then God spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, now behold, I myself do establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, cattle, every beast of the earth with you, of all that comes out of the ark, of every beast of the earth. I establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood. Neither shall there be again be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, this is a sign of my covenant, which I am making between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all successive generations. I set my bow in the cloud. It shall be for a sign out of a covenant between me and the earth. It shall come about when I bring a cloud over the earth, then the bow will be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And never again shall the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. when the bow is in the cloud, then I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant. So important right there, the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant which I've established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. So this covenant is dependent upon God. It's not dependent upon us. It is an everlasting covenant. Some people misinterpret this, that God will never destroy the earth. He doesn't say that. He says, I will never destroy the earth again with water. He is leaving options besides water, obviously, for the world. Everlasting covenant, very, very important. This is a Noahic covenant. It's God's covenant between him and Noah. All right. 2 more key verses here for Genesis that we're going to cover. There's lots in this book, but here's some good ones. This is the chapter 12, is the Abrahamic covenant. And a good way to remember this one is doing some alliteration, is that what it's called? Or if you're doing a sermon, you have to have 3 points. They all have to rhyme or have the same phrase or start with the same letter. So we'll start with the same letter: sand, seed, Savior. God promised them property. God promised them descendants. And God promised that the Messiah would come out of his line. So it's promised in chapter 12. And then it's also in chapters 15 and 17. Basically, God said that he's promised a son to Abraham. He will be the father of many of a great nation, many people. His descendants will be as countless as the sand in this on the sand in the ground. Have many, many, many descendants, and also all the nations of the earth will be blessed through his descendants. That's referring to the coming Messiah, which is Jesus, being his great grandson. Okay, Abrahamic covenant. That is also an everlasting covenant. That promise, it's depending upon God. It's not dependent upon us, and God takes care of that. All the way through. Next is chapter 50. This is just a powerful verse. Chapter 50, verse 20, Joseph says to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. Just so important with taking what Joseph went through, being sold by his brothers into slavery to Egypt, and his whole process, and how God used that to protect Joseph's family and to bring them into Egypt, part of fulfilling God's plan. So then it's a very, very powerful verse, very, very well-known verse. More likely you've heard it before. Key words. Phrases. Spell it right, Mike. Phrases in the book of Genesis. From the first couple chapters in the Bible, when God created everything, God saw that it was good. Then he saw that it was very good. Then he saw that it was not good. It is not good for man to be alone. And then also everlasting covenant, which is in chapter 9, verse 6, 17, verse 7, as well as verse 13 and verse 19. Everlasting covenant, very important, just to remember that, because some people take God's everlasting covenants and turn them into conditional covenants, and that will mess you up doctrinally. If God says it's everlasting, it is everlasting. If his covenant's not everlasting, then you should be worried about your everlasting life. Just saying. Okay, key characters. Who do you think are key important characters in the book of Genesis? That's right, Adam and Eve. Got to remember them. They're the first people that showed up. Also would say Noah. God used him to save humanity through the flood. Abraham started off being Abram, Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons. Anyways, his son Isaac, the promised son. So much about Isaac, picture of Jesus, coming Messiah. Just great information and doctrine and examples pointing to the coming Messiah. And I would also say, very important, Jacob, whose name is changed to Israel. Very important with the history of the Jews and God's promises to his people. And then also I would include his sons, the 12 tribes, which is mentioned in chapter 35, verses 23 through 26. Reuben, best sandwich maker. Judah, all the rest, all the way down to Joseph, the last key character I have for the book of Genesis. So paramount, the last chapters of the book of Genesis, Joseph and how God used him in Egypt through the famine to save up enough food to keep Egypt going and then to provide help for his family. Key points for the book of Genesis. Here's some interesting things that I want you to think about in regards to the book of Genesis. First off, it is quoted or alluded to more than 35 times in the New Testament. Most of them about chapter 2, verses 23 and 24, which is the institution of marriage verse. That and bruise your head, messianic verse. That's a lot. And then creation as well. Genesis, this might be an aha, but it's sort of like, oh, well, yeah, of course. But it's still kind of neat. Genesis covers more time than the remaining books of the entire Bible combined. Genesis covers more time, goes all the way back to creation, all the way up through Joseph. I think this is very important. It never attempts to prove the existence of God. Why is that important? Well, because apologetics is important, but it's also important to realize that basically the Bible comes from a viewpoint that it assumes you know that God exists. It doesn't feel like it has to prove it to you. So I think it's important and strong in regards to us doctrinally in our beliefs that we don't have to spend a lot of time proving that God exists. People know God exists. Romans 1 teaches that. We are without excuse, even as in eternal, even in his invisible attributes are clearly seen. People know that God exists. So it just goes from that viewpoint, okay, we're on the same page here. We're moving forward. God exists, and we're going to start talking about things. And then also, while it is the first book of the Bible, it is not the first book written. That was the book of employment, Job. No, that's the book of Job. Job was written before Genesis. Outline of Genesis. You can divide the book of Genesis into three sections. Talking about the area of Mesopotamia, that's where roughly generally believed the Garden of Eden was. This is a time period from creation to about 2090 BC. Remember, before the time of Christ, we count down the years. So we start up high and it comes down low. BC typically refers to before Christ. And then after BC is AD, Anno Domini, which is Latin for the year of our Lord. It's based upon the birth of Jesus. Today, a lot of people use BCE, which stands for Before Common Era, and CE, which stands for Common Era, which is fine because it's still based upon the estimated birth of Jesus. I think that was designed by, I believe it was by Usher, not your favorite singer, USS HER. Did a timeline, and he estimated, he's a young Earth creationist. Don't get upset if you're an old Earth creationist. You're just wrong. No, he believes it started around 404 BC, and his estimates, I believe that's right. Maybe Usher fixed this guy. Anyways, they figured out that whoever did this counting was kind of off, and Jesus was born in 4 BC. Oops, we do what we can here. You know what I'm saying? It's based upon his birth. So that's all that matters. Okay. Second section is the Promised Land. This is from about 2090 BC to 1897-ish BC. Oh, chapters 12 through 36. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I appreciate that there in the back. First section, obviously, is chapters 1 through 11. Third section is Egypt. This is about 1897-ish to 1804-ish BC. And this is chapters 37 through 50. Okay, this is a simple general outline. Some key points in this is creation, chapters 1 through 2. The fall. Did God really say you can't eat of this? Can't eat of it. Can't touch it. We're going to die. You're not going to die. God knows you're going to become just like him. And then good old Eve just messed things up. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. Next is Noah and the flood, and I am kidding, folks. Adam and Eve together. Noah and the flood, chapters 6 through 9. And then the Tower of Babel. Hey guys, I want you to multiply and spread out. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay right here. We're going to build this tower and go all the way to heaven. God says, no, we're not going to do that. So here, we're going to change your languages and we're going to force you to spread out. Okay? Those are some main stories, chapters in the first section of just chapters in section 2. Sodom and Gomorrah in chapter 19. Isaac, the promised son born, chapter 21. The next one, God tests Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. Picture of Jesus's death for us. This is in chapter 22. What I added is bride for Isaac, who's Rebecca. And so why I put this in is this is a, for those of you who believe along this lines doctrinally, this is a picture of the rapture of believers. Let me get to it in a minute. Don't turn me off right yet, you people, non-rapture believer people. This is in chapter 24. So this is not concrete per se. This is about the raptures coming in 4,000 years. Get ready. Nothing like that. But let me highlight some points for you. And just open mind. You're not going to lose your salvation if you're wrong or right about this. So Bride for Isaac, chapter 24. Abraham was old, advanced in age. The Lord blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham said to his servant, who's not named, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he owned, here's what I want you to do. You're going to go into my country, to my relatives. You're going to find a bride for my son. And you are going to bring that bride to me to be married to my son. So along the lines of the rapture, God sends the Holy Spirit, grabs us, takes us. We are the bride of Christ. That's what we're referred to as the church. And we are come to be joined with his son. So just kind of an interesting, it's a beautiful chapter. I would look at that and take that into consideration and go from there. So that's why I included that. It's not taught as much, but it's a good picture, something to think about and consider. So that is there for that. Okay. So those are the first four of this section. There's some more. Still with me? Next one, birth of Esau and Jacob, that deceitful little guy, sneaky Jacob. Children of Jacob is 29 through 30. Now, you think you have family situations? No. Well, I mean, maybe you do, but not compared to Jacob. You want a soap opera, Jacob and his family soap opera. So he falls in love with his wife to be. He wants to marry her. His future father-in-law deceives him. Sure, go ahead. You're gonna work for me 7 years, and you're gonna get this beautiful lady to be your wife. And then the wedding day, I don't know how it works. I don't know what goes on there or what. You got to read the chapters to get it all out. But he marries his girlfriend's sister. And he says to his father-in-law, hey, dude, what's up? You gave me the wrong daughter. Oh, my bad. She has to marry first. So you can marry this one. And so he promises to work again and marries both. And then they have rivalry back and forth. One can't have kids. The other one has kids. She can't have kids. So she says, here's my handmaiden. The other one says, here's my handmaiden. Then the other one who can't have kids now can have. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. You get to read it. Good times. And then Jacob wrestles with God. Name changed to Israel. That's in chapter 32. Okay. Section 2 of Genesis. Section 3. Joseph, the favorite kid, and his coat of many colors. So beautiful, so amazing, and sold by his brothers who were sick and tired of the little brat being a little brat. Chapter 37. Next one, Joseph in Potiphar's house. His house is blessed. His job is in his work is blessed. Potiphar trusts him with everything. He goes off to work. Has an incident with Mrs. Potiphar. Joseph was a good, upright man, and he took off, chapter 39, to avoid problems. Potiphar's wife lies about him, and Potiphar has to get rid of him because of that. Section C, prisoner's dreams interpreted, chapter 40. So do you remember that? So the baker and the butler are thrown in prison, in jail. Pharaoh's not happy. They have dreams. They're all upset. Joseph's like, well, tell me about it. And they explain their dreams. You got to read it. And Joseph tells one of them, hey, this means you're going to be restored. When you're restored, can you please remember me and tell Pharaoh, get me out of here because I shouldn't be in this jail. And the other guy said, well, that sounds great. Here's my dream. And Joseph said, yeah, that means you're going to die. I'll see you later, buddy. And he wasn't very happy. And sure enough, Pharaoh releases both, kills the guy, kills one, and restores the other. And the one who's restored was so happy he forgot Joseph. I think he was there for another 2 years. Oops. Until Pharaoh has a dream. And he's scared. And the butler's like, oh, wait a minute. Hey, boss. There's this guy in jail down the dungeon. He can interpret your dreams. And he did. And Pharaoh said, great. So he said, Pharaoh, live forever. You're going to have 7 plentiful years, then you're going to have 7 years of famine. You need to prepare for the 7 years of famine because it's coming. And Pharaoh said, great, you're in charge. Congratulations. So he was promoted. Feast in the land, famine in the land. Brothers come to Egypt. 41 through 44. And then Joseph reveals to his brothers, reveals himself to his brothers. Family moves to Egypt. That must have been a rough conversation. Hey, Dad, remember when we told you we found Joseph's coat covered in blood and we assumed that a wild beast got him and you've been mourning for the past few years that he's been dead? Oh, funny story about that. Yeah, he's alive. Yeah, we're totally shocked too. How did he get to Egypt? Well, we sold him slavery. So we knew he wasn't dead. So happy Father's Day. Yeah, that's really bad. Death of Jacob, chapter 49. And then after Jacob dies, the brothers come to Joseph and like, please don't hate us, please don't kill us, please don't, and Joseph like, guys, back to that verse. You meant it for evil, God meant it for good. So he reassures his brothers, they live in peace in Egypt. And then death of Joseph is recorded, chapter 50. And the book of Genesis ends with the Pharaoh at that time in all of Egypt, grateful and thankful for Joseph and his family. Pharaoh gives Joseph a lady to be his wife, and they have a couple kids, and And the whole family moves to Egypt, and that's what opens up to Egypt then enslaving Israel. And we'll get to that in the next book. So beautiful picture of how God used Joseph and bad times and trials and difficulties, and Old Testament example of Romans 8:28. That God used things for his purpose. So that's the book of Genesis. Any questions? So that's a quick survey. And so, like I mentioned before, what I'm trying to do with this study is get a bird's eye view of the entire parade, the beginning of the parade, the middle of the parade, the back of the parade, what surrounds the parade, the whole street, the whole blocks, all, together, rather than right down in the street watching that few feet or so of the parade right in front of your eyes when we're studying a book of the Bible. Get the whole bird's eye view of the whole thing from beginning to end, and that will help explain what you're seeing and what you're studying and what you're reading in the Bible and seeing how it fits and comes together. So I'm really enjoying this study, and I'm getting a lot out of it. It's lots of content. The next few books are going to be even more than what we just did just now, but I think it's going to be helpful. I'll have the notes available in a PDF, and hopefully you're taking notes. Use these classes for after you read the book, maybe before you read the book, whichever. And I hope it will be an encouragement and a help to you to get more out of the Bible and to get more things from it. Feel free to comment if you have any questions or thoughts. Hopefully it was helpful, and we'll see you at the next one, okay? I appreciate you watching.